Hey, you guys will have to let me know if you can hear me. Not sure how the sound is, and I want to make sure you guys can hear me before we get started. You guys will have to let me know if you can hear me. Okay, I hear myself. Sure how the sound is. So let me just make an adjustment here. Make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, I muted myself. Well, I muted the sound coming out of my computer, but you guys have to let me know if you can still hear my voice. Let's see. Can you still hear my voice? Let me know. Let's just see here. Okay. Ah, Shelly. Hey, yes, you can hear me. Great. Thanks. And Penrose. Yes, you can hear me. Great. Amaya. Hey, it's great to have you here. Antonio, always lovely to see you. Hope. Yay. Okay. Yes, no more echo. Whew, good. Okay. Okay, fabulous. I'm so glad you guys are joining me today. I am pumped about this live and being able to do more teaching this year. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Those of you who've been with me for a while, you've heard me talk about it. You've heard me say, hey, I really want to do more teaching. Um, because there's so much about to start to, well, already unfolding in our third dimensional realities. Hey, Kylie, so glad to see you. Cynthia, hey. So much unfolding in our realities that is going to be absolutely extraordinary and life-changing and thrilling and terrifying and exciting and never seen before. And I felt really guided in my part of this to as a way shower, as a teacher, to share what I know about the astrology of it all, to help give us some grounding and clarity about what it is, and some orientation and direction for the big picture so that we aren't in a place of doubting or fearing or being pushed around by these energies. So many of you know my story. You know what I've been through. I'm going to share just a little bit of it in a moment here, but in my life, I considered myself an astrological bottom feeder when I look back on the way I was doing life. What that meant is I was getting the absolute worst of every single transit, and I hated that. Things would be like good for other people, but for me, it would be the kind of thing where I would get the shadow, I would get the darkness, I would get the challenge of every single transit. And you know what? When it really got to its worst, um, I ended up like losing everything that mattered to me until I really started to understand how these energies are meant to help us. They're not meant to hurt us or harm us. But if we don't do our part in participating with them in real time, unfortunately, the stars won't stop us from taking the long way or the hard way, which apparently was like my MO for a long time. I don't want you to have to do that. I don't want it to get as bad for you as it was for me. So this is why I wanted to step into more teaching because I realized that doing a one-on-one reading can be cost prohibitive depending upon what country you live in. It can be challenging given my schedule, given your schedule. And sometimes we have more questions than just what once a year would allow. And if I can teach more and be with more of you on a regular basis, it's going to allow me to answer those questions in a more cost-effective way for everyone. So that's what we're getting up to here today with Star Club. And if all of that resonates, it's like, yeah, that sounds really good. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and hit that like button. Let the algorithm know that this is interesting content to you and you want to continue to hear more about it. Okay. So in this Saturn, Neptune, and Aries live stream that we're doing, let's just see. I am going to talk to you guys about the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries and what kind of things we may collectively see over the course of this transit and things that we're already seeing. I'm going to give you some news stories so you know what's happening presently and how that fits into this sort of energy so that you know how to track it when you see it. And I'm also going to speak to some predictions personally. I'll make an official announcement opening Star Club today. For those of you who are part of the YouTube community, so many of you in our star family who are on my private list have already received your invitation. Many of you have joined. Thank you so much. I'm going to answer questions about Star Club and give you a chance to take it deeper. I'm going to talk to you about how Saturn and Neptune and Aries can be experienced personally and what you need to pay attention to when it comes to Saturn and Neptune in Aries concerning your own life. I'm going to give you a few key dates and moments to watch for and work with. And then, if you're ready to have some dialogue about this and learn how it may impact your sun, moon, rising, or stelliums, we're going to head over to the Star Club member area. And I'd love for you to join us for that, where I'm going to walk you through how this energy may impact your all 12 signs and sun, moon, and rising so that you're able to apply it personally. I'm also going to give you specific instructions. Here's what you do if this is impacting this, this area of the sky for you. Here's what you need to focus on if it's impacting that area of the sky for you so that you know how to prepare. And if you're catching the replay, the link to join Star Club will be in the description box below. Okay, so in order to really understand this transit and get started, I want to bring you into an introduction to the planetary energies of Saturn and Neptune. You guys have heard me talk about these two over time. Let me just see here. I need to advance my slide. How do I do that? Like that. Yay. Okay, go me. Okay, so let's talk about the energies of Saturn and Neptune. We're going to talk about them individually, then we're going to talk about them together. So Saturn in and of itself represents times, cycles, and maturation. It's the governor of timing, aging, maturity, and the natural movement of seasons changing, one ending leading to a new beginning. It really governs long-term reality over some of our short-term desires, long-term discipline and focused action over short-term passion and fulfillment. Saturn is our slow, inevitable process of becoming. This is in part why people talk so much in the astrology community about a Saturn return, because it is one of those seasons in a person's life where we step into and cross the threshold into who we are when we've become a more mature version of ourself. We also see Saturn governing structure, order, and authority. So Saturn is our architect of systems, rules, bureaucracy, frameworks. It is the established tradition in the old guard. We see Saturn in the chart when we're looking at the father archetype energy. And if we expand on that, we're talking about male bosses and authority figures. Saturn governs alignment with what's tested, what's proven, what we can point to as factual. Many of you guys recognize some of this language in the way we think about science. If I can't see it, I can't prove it. If there's no mathematical equation for it, how do I know it's real? That is Saturnian in nature. Saturn also governs boundaries and separation. So the establishment of borders, limits, containers. This is where something ends and something else begins. It's also separation as a means of definition and clarity and discernment about what's aligned and what's not, and closing off misaligned paths in order to reinforce direction. So, in this way, Saturn can really be supportive, especially for those who are empaths or those who are intuitively aligned. Saturn is really asking us to step now into a season of governing ourselves, taking authority over ourselves, not being at the mercy and the whim all the time of collective energies, not getting pushed around. And in that regard, we also see Saturn governing closing off misaligned paths to reinforce direction, integrity and wholeness, and responsibility. These are key features here. We see Saturn talk about the restoration of integrity and wholeness through accountability and truth. Commitment, discipline, and devotion to a path, these are part of that integrity and responsibility themes. And the natal placement can really indicate where integrity is being built in this lifetime, where it's stabilizing in this lifetime. There is a story that I love to share about Saturn. I told it a lot more when the channel was younger, but I'll bring you guys into it now about Gaia, Saturn, and Gaia's lover, Uranus. So, Gaia, the Earth, populated the Earth with her original children through what is parthenogenesis? I think that's the word where you self-birth. You don't need a fertilizer to do it. That was Gaia. Baddie be unto herself. Saturn was one of her children. But eventually, she wanted to experience another body like her own, not just one of her own children. She wanted to experience a lover. So she generated Uranus, known as the heavens. Now we speak to this as Uranus, as a planetary energy, to wrap around her body. And they made sweet love until they didn't. Here's what happened. She started to generate her fertilized children. The joint creation between Uranus and her, and these children were nothing like her original children. Some of them were born with 100 hands. They were known as the 100-handed ones. These 100-handed ones, Uranus, Gaia was like, cool, more babies. Uranus was like, nah, these children, they're an abomination. I don't like to look at them. They shouldn't be coming out. And so what I will do is try to shove the babies back inside of you. Now, you don't ever have to have given birth, been pregnant, or been through labor to know that if you are going to try to shove babies back into a mother while the babies are being born, you are taking your life into your own hands. In pain, Gaia cries out to her original children, I need someone to help me. Saturn's the one to respond. Ma, what do you need me to do? Gaia says, castrate this one. And so Saturn does. Saturn castrates Uranus in pain. He recedes from Gaia. There is a gap now between the heavens and the earth. And from that story, we get the legend of Saturn being known as the harsh teacher, the punisher, and the separator. Okay, but if we look at that story from Gaia's side, what Saturn gave back to Gaia was the opportunity to operate in her sovereignty, to do what it is that she does, gave her back her wholeness. And this is the word integrity in response to Saturn. It's integrity as being whole. Okay. With Saturn, we get creation through rupture rather than unity without wholeness. And this is a key theme for those of you who watch this channel from the twin flame, divine counterpart perspective. Saturn will not let these things come together without wholeness. There's a demand in all of our energies for wholeness. And this year in particular, our divine masculine energy. Aries is the first masculine sign. Okay. When it comes to the light expression of Saturn, we get structure that supports growth. We get grounded discipline and focused effort. We get emotional and energetic self-regulation. We get stability, reliability. We get earned authority. These are all beautiful expressions of Saturn. We need these in our lives. We get boundaries in the light. In the shadow expression, we get excess control, we get rigidity, we get authoritarianism, we get fear-based restriction and emotional shutdown. We get divisiveness, we get isolation, we get over separation. We also get paralysis and stuckness through avoidance, being slow to act or over caution. Okay. So these are the energies of Saturn. They're coming into the very personal sign of Aries now. They were previously in Pisces, now coming into Aries. And during that Saturn and Pisces time, we saw an explosion of Pisces represents the subconscious, people starting to take better care of their mental health with tools like therapy, and other, coaching, things that help us. Coaching's been around for a while, but we absolutely see more people taking advantage of it in this season, bringing structure to spirituality in the subconscious mind. That was Saturn in Pisces. Now let's talk about Neptune. Here we go. Neptune governs the unseen world, the infinite and the oceanic, with Neptune as the governor of our seas and our oceans and our boundless inner realms. It's the formless, the intangible, the unknowable, that which we cannot name, define, or contain. Trying to speak to Neptune and its relevant sign Pisces is like trying to grab a fistful of air, a fistful of water. It slips right through the fingers in the process. With that which cannot be named or defined or contained, we also get the dissolution of physical limits into the energetic and into spiritual vastness. I call it the cosmic soup, all that is. We also get imagination, intuition, and that liminal space Neptune governs called the veil. This is where we see connection to imagination as a bridge between worlds. The intuition, psychic sensitivity, and subtle perception, these are all experiences governed by Neptune. We also see the veil between the seen and the unseen realms and access to symbols, symbolic language, dreams, energetic knowing, signs. Neptune governs the oceans. The bodies of water were our first mirrors. And so being able to see through reflection what is exactly reality, these are the domains of Neptune, that reflective energy. We get spiritual access and permeability through that veil. So the placement in our chart can show where we can slide off into the deep end and reality can become a little fluid and hard to grasp, but also where we have deep intuition and intuitive knowing. That area of the chart is where your intuition is about to be on 10, going into the Neptune in Aries years. We're going to talk about key dates in a moment. We also have an access point to the unseen world through that house. And then we see mysticism and transcendence as Neptune's domain. So we get a connection to the metaphysical, the divine, collective consciousness. We get a pull toward unity and oneness. We get the transcendence of ego with this. And that's going to be really key for our Aries energy, because Aries in many ways can represent some of the uh, raw raw ego, heightened sensitivity to energy, emotion, and environments. That's Neptune, because Neptune dissolves what stops us from being able to perceive those things. We also get a spiritualization of experience, and that allows us to understand meaning and get great meaning out of what we're personally experiencing. Okay, so surrender and release are also key themes with Neptunes. This is all about letting go of control and rigidity of structure. Notice we just talked about structure with Saturn. These are opposing energies in some ways. We get the release of structure with Neptune. We get the dissolution of attachments, expectations, and false constructs. It's no accident that when it comes to people's personal identities, illusions are dropping as Neptune lands into Aries. We're seeing a lot of people get quote unquote exposed on the internet, and the difference between their inner and outer reality as this veil in what is personal versus what is public is getting thin with Neptune in Aries. Okay. This will also facilitate some healing through softness, openness, and receptivity. In the light, Neptune gives us deep intuition and inner knowing. We also get compassion, we get empathy, we get spiritual connection. We get some creative inspiration and visionary thinking as well as conscious surrender and emotional flow. Okay. In the shadow with Neptune, we get some illusion, confusion, we get a lack of clarity. Things can feel really uncertain and unstable with Neptune energy, especially inside the interior self with Neptune and Aries. We also get deception, self-deception, and escapism in particular. We can get disillusion without discernment or grounding. And so we can find that because the clarity is dissolving, there's no discernment between what's intuition and what's just straight imagination and fluff. The two can become interchangeable in this sort of energy. And that can create a type of mania or madness, self-madness. We can also see with Neptune an avoidance of reality, boundaries, or responsibility. Okay. So that's what we see there with these two. I mentioned just a couple of things that you guys may be seeing already concerning Neptune and Saturn in Aries. I'm going to take this deeper in a moment, but I want to pause here and check in the chat. Are you guys seeing some of what I'm saying, either showing up in your own lives or showing up in the collective? Put a 1 in the chat and let me know. Love to see. Antonia says, grateful for my therapist. Yes. Intuition has been so loud. It can be, Shelley. Absolutely. Empathy turned up as well. Like finding myself crying for absolutely no reason. That has 100% been a feature of Neptune stepping into Aries for me. Yeah. Okay. So you guys are seeing some of this. Memory of the Sky is seeing some of this as well. SOP with Camel. Yes. Amaya. Yes. Okay. We're going to take it deeper, and because we're in good Saturn energy, I'm going to concretize some of this for you. Wendy says, totally drained and feel so lost. Yeah, Neptune can cause that, a sense of feeling drained, a sense of feeling a little bit lost. Absolutely. Okay, so Julia and Wendy also are seeing this. Okay, thank you guys for sharing. This has all been conjunct my North Node. I have felt bicep muscles. Nice, Amaya. Yes, strengthening can also be, if this is manifesting in the light, this can actually be a very strengthening influence and energy. And I'm going to talk to you guys about what that'll look like in a moment here. Okay. All right. So let me go into when they come together, what we should be expecting, because a Saturn-Neptune injunction, you guys see how these are sort of opposing energies, right? It can be a little like, ooh, how does that work if they are conjunct and they come together and they blend and they make a singular energy? In a conjunction, this is where we get the form meeting the formless. This is an attempt to give structure to what can't be contained. This is where we'll see bringing the unseen into tangible reality, and where we'll all be working on translating intuition and vision or spiritual truth into something that is usable and livable and real. Okay. This is also when Saturn and Neptune come together, we're talking about reality versus illusion. So a collapse of false structures, illusions, fantasies. Collectively, we're really seeing that now with the way politicians, celebrities, figures in government, and leaders are whatever illusion or fantasy we had about who they were, that's collapsing now. This is where we confront where something maybe felt true but lacked wholeness or grounding. We're coming to the place of being unable to ignore where there is a lack of grounding or wholeness. There is a demand here to really reconcile dreams with reality in this energy. We also get spiritualized discipline, and the call to really take seriously our spiritual practice. This is where you may find devotion to a path that can't be fully proven or logically explained, grounds itself for you. You may not necessarily know how meditation works, but you may be into making it a part of your daily life at this point. Just because we don't all know or see electricity at work, that doesn't mean we don't make it real for us or use it every day. This is building a life or a body of work around our intuition, our faith, our energetic knowing as well. And this is why, for some who have lived very concrete, grounded, third dimensional lives, this period can feel really unsettling and disorienting because there is a disintegration of everything that was built solely on the world of form. Neptune's washing that away, while Saturn is causing that separation from anything that's, not going to serve us. And so what we're left with is the bare bones of what's real. And for some, that can feel like starting over completely, like Saturn and Neptune have hit the reset button on your life in the last year as they pass through the final degrees of Pisces. We also see a commitment to the unseen through grounded practice. And so some of you may, like I said, really be starting to work with your spiritual practices in more concrete, boundaried ways in order to foster and boost your intuition and inner knowing. We get sacred boundaries around that here. So this is learning where to be open and where to put up a boundary, put up a wall. In shadow, this is the energy of just trying to block out everything that's happening in the world right now. And this is, I can't, let me try to find the words to express what I'm trying to say here clearly. There's so many things showing up in the news that are overwhelmingly abhorrent or sad or egregious and grievous that can make us want to just tune out the world in totality. The reason I say that's a shadow expression of sacred boundaries is because in order to shape the world, we cannot not. We also, we are tri-dimensional beings. We've got our spirit and our body and our heart, right? More dimensions than that if we really want to speak to it. But in order to change the world, we also have to participate at all three layers, not just spiritually, but also hands in the clay. We can shape it not just through our vibration, but also through the choices that that vibration leads us to make in our daily lives, right? And so turning to face the world with our light as opposed to turning away from the world is actually what's going to allow us all to land in a world that holds greater light for the collective and for ourselves, making it a place we all want to be in going further. So this spiritualized discipline, all of these have light and shadow, but I really wanted to make sure I spoke to that given how challenging the fall of illusions and the exposure of information has become. It's like, whoa, still a lot of information. It's coming all at once. How do I handle this? My nervous system in doses, small doses, in doses that work for you. We see dissolution of old structures, so systems, identities, or commitments that lack integrity are beginning to erode now. I'm laughing because it's like, yeah, no kidding. As we watch some of these systems, very much in energy of the emperor has no clothes, and now not only does everyone know it, but he knows it too in the sign of Aries. We get letting go of rigid frameworks that no longer hold spiritual truth. We see a lot of disillusionment across religious systems at this point, where being right just has weighed more than being right or doing the right thing, where the law of the religion has undermined love where um, people have opted for rules over relationship. This is where we're going to start to see continuation of that disintegration there. Okay. And there's grief in this energy for all of us collectively. I want to speak to that because many things that once felt stable, you may find a Saturn and Neptune jump into Aries. These things are no longer aligned. There's no fruit on that tree for you any longer, and you have to put it down or watch it get washed away from your life. We get embodiment of the intangible here. This is all about making things real. So making art, healing work, spiritual insight, tangible and accessible. This is a big piece of my work, right? Here are these concepts, these energies. How do I make this usable for you in your life? This is about turning vision into structure without losing its essence, right? How do you call it out of the ether and place it into the world? This is about becoming that vessel that can hold both discipline and flow. In the light, grounded spirituality, absolutely. And this is again because there is such a demand for grounded spirituality in our individual energies. Again, in the sign of Aries, we're talking about the self. Many are having wake-up calls with religion and moving, taking that step out of religion and toward deeper spirituality. We're seeing clear intuitive channel energies with strong boundaries. Some of you may find that you're getting exposed intuitively to information of a caliber and quality that you never had access to before. And it's because you now, with Saturn sitting in your personal sign, Aries, are getting greater personalized boundaries to not be overwhelmed or taken under by this new set of intuitive information coming into your space. We also see a lot of ability to manifest vision into reality here. And so I love to see that. Like I said, it's about calling it out of the ether and into the world. Uh, Put a 2 in the chat for me if you felt some sort of pressure inside of you to get on with your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, and have seen things in your life that were in the way of it just suddenly fall out, like move out of the way, no longer be an issue. Put a 2 in the chat for me if you're seeing that. That's the devoted discipline to your own ambition, your higher guidance. I always call ambition that place where your spirit meets your ego and tells you how far you can go in this lifetime, because you're going to need both parts of you to make anything real. Okay. In the shadow, however, we have some shadow expressions. We get confusion, disillusionment, we get loss of direction here. And many of you all have, we talked about that earlier. You put the 1 in the chat for that, experiencing that. A sense of feeling like life hit the reset button and everything that was once there is just whoosh, wiped away, wiped the slate clean, it's gone. And that can create a large sense of a loss of direction or grounding. In the shadow, there can be building on illusion or false spiritual narratives here. Um, it's like a cloistering energy, one where it's like the only way forward isn't through unity consciousness, it's through separation. It's through you go over there and I'll go over here, and we cannot be together. We all have to be apart. That's a shadow expression of the Saturn Neptune energy. It's the illusion of separation and separation consciousness amplifying. So we've certainly seen some of that. We also see escapism paired with avoidance of responsibility, right? And so doubling down on addictions, doubling down on false narratives to keep us from having to deal with the way life or the world has changed, making it, pushing it out into somebody else's responsibility. It's their fault, not my fault, this sort of thing. And we can see a rigidity here that suppresses intuition, really doubling down and working really hard to not have to look at your intuitive knowing. And on the flip extreme of that, we also get permeability that erodes structure, becoming so porous, so out in the ethers when it comes to all of the energy, making all of the energies your energy, like literally preparing yourself to need to go into a rest home, a straitjacket, because there's just no boundaries within you. So you're just taking in everything all at one time. That's a shadow expression of this energy. Okay. Now, with these specifically coming into Aries, Aries is the sign of the self. It's the sign of our personal ambition, action, identity, boundaries, and spirituality. With these coming into the sign of Aries, what we see is a redefinition and a restructuring of self. Who am I? Who am I in this new world that seems to have these new rules? Who do I want to be in the face of all of the changes that are unfolding in the collective? Personal ambition changing. Many of you may have found in the last 2.5 years, year and a half, some of your dreams have fallen. They have collapsed. What you had as a goal or a dream or an ambition, those things no longer hold attraction for you. You're not drawn to them. You can't figure out why. You may have not started yet. You may have been in the middle of starting or the middle of taking action toward a goal, started school. I've spoken to so many people who are like, yeah, I started this degree and I've got 1 year left and I cannot finish and I don't know why. K Moon, what's wrong with me? It's the closing out of a cycle. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Pisces was the last. With Neptune and Saturn, both of these dealing with boundaries, liminal spaces, intuition, but also structure. There is something inside of many of us that, regardless of where we were at with these ambitions, all the steps left or one step left, that Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, if it wasn't aligned with your next chapter season, it got shut down. Your ability to act, that's Aries on that ambition, got taken away, closed off, because it's time to switch now into what's more aligned with your true self and your true nature. Action gets refined in this as well. You may have found that no matter how hard you try, taking action in unaligned ways to who you are and your person is no longer accessible. I was just telling someone the other day, it used to be, before walking into 2026, I could literally sit down to work. I do Pomodoros. I'm not, going full out, but I could sit down to work for about 12 hours, no problem, and just plow through content, getting things done, generating things. Saturn, Neptune, and Aries for me has meant that taking action, I can no longer work in that way. I actually need to work in more aligned ways for my physical body. Okay. There's a restructuring of identity in this as well. Some of you may find that what you used to identify with, you just don't identify with anymore. Again, I go back to the example of religion. Some people may have identified, let's say, as Catholic, but now you're identifying more as spiritual. Some of you work-wise, you may have identified as a scientist or a PhD candidate. Now you're stepping out of that and you're recognizing, you know what, this really isn't who I am anymore. I need to redefine my identity. Things that have previously been our identity markers can be dissolving at this time. Okay. There's a redefinition of personal boundaries in this as well. Again, Saturn's placing that demand on us personally to think through where do I end and where do you begin? And then how do I take action around enforcement of my own boundaries? What's aligned for me boundary wise? What do I need to focus on boundary wise to allow myself to have that sovereignty? We're certainly seeing collective boundaries getting restructured. We'll talk about that in a moment, but your personal boundaries may also be getting restructured. There has been in the collective social media psychotherapist zeitgeist a huge focus. You have probably seen it in your reels, your feed, around people saying, who are you going to interact, how are you going to interact with people in a way that respects you, in a way that honors you, in a way that allows you to be you? You have to do that with boundaries. And if people can't respect your boundaries, you also need to look at how do you be in or exit those relationships in new ways. Personal spirituality is also changing here as well. People starting to really move into relationship over religion, love over law, doing what's right over just checking off a righteousness box. And so we're certainly seeing that start to unfold as well. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys, I want to bring you into some of the stories that I have seen. I did a little research in preparation for this around collective experiences that we all may be seeing show themselves concerning Saturn and Neptune and Aries. But I want to just check back here in the chat, see how this is landing for you guys. Is this resonating for you guys? Yeah, I see some twos in the chat. Good. Focused on mission. Very good, DJ Alkeen. I love that. Okay. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you, Hope. Yeah. Okay, yeah, Hope gets it. There's sometimes spiritual people that are not genuinely spiritual. Um, okay. And Shelley says, definitely feeling the call to align 100% with my soul, walking it out in the world with new actions towards my soul's calling. But Island, thanks for the historical content. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Well, now we're going to get into current events. But Island, welcome. Always great to see you here. Okay, so you also may notice maybe you don't have the same energy. That's definitely something Antonia said she was laying down more. Let me bring you into, where do I have that screen with current events? There we go. Not that one. Here we go. Okay, so here it, don't do that. Let me reshare screens. You should be able to see my screen. I picked about 5 news stories that really speak to this. This one is from theguardian.com. Let me just come back over to YouTube and make sure y'all can see. Can you guys see the Guardian story here on your screen? Yes, okay, I see. I've been angry. Shocker. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute. Alexa and Julia Smith, thank you so much for sharing those experiences. They'll help people self-identify as they listen to the recording. So the European Union is starting to crack down on deportation and expand its enforcement power. So there are some proposed EU rules that would expand deportation, surveillance, and policing of movement. This includes potential home searches without warrants, and mandatory reporting there. How did I get into that? I need to close out of that. Hang on 1 second. There we go. And mandatory reporting. And here we see Saturn and Neptune at work. Saturn's all about enforcement, borders, authority. Neptune is where we have that blur between human rights, moral ambiguity, um, invisibility of migrants and their needs. Why are they even coming in the first place? You know, that obfuscation of the historical context, while simultaneously the absolute policing of present time. Movement, Aries is movement. So this is one way this is showing up, and the EU isn't the only place that this is happening. Some of you are seeing this in your countries around the world. You want to share what country you're in. If you're seeing some change on borders and immigration and movement status, let me know what country you're in the chat. We also see something interesting that happened. It is the Global High Seas Treaty. It has entered into enforcement. So this is the first legally binding framework governing international waters beyond personal country borders. So this creates marine protected areas and environmental oversight over our oceans. And in that, we see Saturn at work doing the structural thing, and imposing structure on a previously unregulated space, a nebulous space, that's our oceans. And then we also see Neptune. Again, we talked about Neptune governing oceans, the collective unconscious or the collective soup that we all share and a shared global resource. So we see that starting to take place as well. So all of these stories, I'm going to link them in the description box below. Just give me a little bit after we're done here. So if you want to read these news articles, you can. But this allows these waters to really start the process of getting some level of protection and regulation in areas such as shipping, plastic pollution, overfishing, deep sea mining, all of that being compounded by climate change. And 83 countries had ratified it, um, including China and Japan. So lots of really good stuff there. Very interesting way that the Saturn and Neptune coming together in Aries is taking effect. We've got some accountability, responsibility, energy there. The next story I saw had to do with creating the AI deepfake regulations are starting to expand across the United States. So, and I feel like this isn't just a US thing. I feel like we're going to start to see this popping up worldwide, really starting to crack down on the way artificial intelligence is being used, bringing regulation to it. Again, recall that Neptune governs the seas, the oceans. The oceans were our first mirror. Artificial intelligence is meant to be a mirror of our actual intelligence. And so, cracking down on the way this mirror gets used is a big piece of how this is unfolding. So, in specifically the state of New Jersey here in the United States, a new law criminalizes AI generated deceptive media, including deepfakes, with penalties up to prison time. People who have had their likeness being utilized in artificial intelligence without their knowing, without their permission, they can now pursue civil action for misuse of their identity. Identity, again, is Aries. And this is part of a broader national trend here in the States, with many states moving to regulate AI generated media. There again, we see Saturn with the legal consequences, with the enforcement of a boundary, and in Aries, the identity protection. Neptune, again, that piece around artificial intelligence governs illusions, false realities, and shadow manipulation of image and perception. So we're seeing some changes happen there to catch the law up with technology. Okay. Um, and in particular, and this is my favorite because, Aries has such a childlike nature. As of last year, governors in more than a dozen states had signed laws cracking down on digitally created, altered child essay imagery, according to a review by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Okay. And so this is really good. We need these sorts of protections as technology advances to continue to facilitate protection of our persons. Okay. Let's see. We also have the rise of digital identity ownership platforms. So new legislation, um, like Utah's Digital Choice Act, Utah's another state here in the United States, it enables individuals like you and I to control, transfer, and delete our personal data across multiple platforms. Many times, you'll see when you sign up for a newsletter mailing list, or you'll see on a website, we don't sell your personal data, or opt out here to sell your to stop us from selling your data. Things like the Digital Choice Act, it allows you to be in greater control over that personal data, and it pushes back over big technology's control, reframing identity as user-owned rather than platform-owned. And this signals a broader shift toward data sovereignty and personal agency in digital spaces, which is good. We need that. Again, we have Saturn in the mix talking about ownership, regulation, enforced boundaries around data and personal identity, personal data and personal identity. And then Neptune, again, governing the reflection, the picture of me and the printing of my address in pixels on the internet is not actually me, it's a reflection of me. So we've got the digital self, the illusion of free platforms dissolving because they weren't really free. They were utilizing us as their currency and our data. And where that fragmentation of identity sits, we have new laws coming together to reclaim and facilitate your own sovereignty and autonomy again, which is really nice. And then lastly, last story I set aside for us is in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, is targeting influencer health claims. And so US regulators are intensifying enforcement against influencers who are making unverified health claims. This has a specific focus in the regulatory landscape around supplements or devices or viral wellness products being promoted without evidence. Again, Saturn wants that tried and true, what we can see and what we can prove. And this signals a shift toward legal accountability for anecdotal or intuitive claims. There are platforms and regulators targeting unverified spiritual health claims and uh, forcing like content creators to substantiate intuitive or energetic frameworks. Now, again, we see Saturn with the enforcement, the consequences, the regulatory boundaries, and then Neptune being curtailed there. Neptune needing to ground intelligence. And the inverse is also happening as well, where there has been intuitive information showing up in the medical space. We are also now starting to see science and research back those claims up with data points so that we can see more of that which was available to those of us who are medical mediums or who have gifts in this arena start to have science step in to showcase that it's not all pseudoscience, it's not fake. Okay. So I'm curious, what are some of the other collective experiences you're seeing in the chat that align with these things? I'm going to come back over to chat now just to check in with you guys. Thank you all for being here. If you're hearing something that resonates, definitely hit that like button if you haven't already. Um, Julia Smith says, this is interesting given that Uranus is moving into Gemini this year. I agree. It is absolutely interesting, and that's one of the things I'm also going to be back to talk about then as well. Um, Alexa says, just got terminated from a job on Friday, so ready for the next steps. Yeah, if it wasn't aligned with who you're meant to become, it is going to get taken out of your life at this point. Okay. Julia says, pivoting from one creative project to another more spiritual project. There you go. It's very much aligned. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, let me know in the chat what you guys, if any of that resonates. Does it make sense? Do you have questions about that? What I just showed you is some of these experiences. You guys are seeing it, right? Let's do a 3. Put a 3 in the chat if you're like, okay, yeah, I'm tracking with those news stories you just shared. I'd love to know if it's all making sense. Okay. And if you can think of other things, drop them in the chat or in the comment section. There are more experiences like the ones that I shared to come. Those ones that I just shared are really just the beginning. And what this means is that it's really going to be necessary for us to have safe places to refine our own personal identity, to figure out who we are without criticism, to figure out who we are without policing, cultural policing by other people on social media saying, you can't say that, you shouldn't be like that, you should be more like this. Many of you have found in the last several years that you've outgrown communities that you had previously been a part of. And that outgrowth was meant to happen. Those communities that have collapsed not because the communities weren't right, but because you have moved into a season of your life where you have outgrown what they could provide for you. When we change, everything exterior to us also has to change. But just because you've gone into the cocoon as a caterpillar does not yet mean that you're ready to come out as the butterfly. Your wings still may be taking shape. The type of butterfly you're becoming is still being written. I liken this to seeing a what do they call those things? A printed 3D printer. I feel like together we are watching ourselves come out of the 3D printer in real time. Is something there? Yes. Is it all the way done printing? No. And so this in-between state where we're at now can be filled and fraught with a lot of confusion. There's a lot of ways that right now we may be feeling slightly insecure or slightly ungrounded or just unclear. If any of you are feeling that, can you let me know in the chat if you're feeling unclear, ungrounded, uncertain about next steps in your life? Or if you've just lost, you feel lost or you lost your friendship group in the last year. Miss EGG says, I'm purging more with my Chiron return in Aries. It accelerated. Yeah. Amaya says, this is my 9th house. This has definitely happened at church and it feels weird and sad. Yeah. Um, Very good. Wendy says, very unclear and ungrounded. Shelly says, definitely outgrown a lot recently. I see new coming forward too. Hope says, I think I'm living on my own planet. Mariah says, so much uncertainty and lack of community. Wendy says, I've completely isolated myself. And in so many ways, thank you, Wendy, for saying that, because you're absolutely right. In so many ways, it can feel like the only way to survive an onslaught of narratives coming out in the collective that are exposing where our reality was not really real or based on anything. It can feel so overwhelming that the only thing we can do is close off, isolate, go reclusive, disconnect. But that isn't actually what's going to allow us to step into the higher realms of who we are and express that here on the planet. In fact, that isolation is the opposite of the way we're meant to be using this energy, because that's where we can go into depression. That's where we can go into numbness. That's where we can go into fear of other people and fear of our own, for our own safety. When in actuality, what we have showing up for us is a season and a period of time where we are becoming more ourselves. And if we can do that in safe spaces, not only does this accelerate how quickly our life comes back together again in the new chapter and new season, but it allows us to be more of our true self instead of less. Okay. And this is a big reason why I have created Star Club. And so I mentioned that I was going to share with you guys an invitation to join Star Club. So I want to share with you how important it is to have a community that is really going to facilitate your capacity to step into your next chapter and into your next season. So in the description box and also in the chat, our lovely Kylie has dropped a link to Star Club, which you can join now. The community opened earlier this week, specifically for those of you on the private list. Thank you all who have already joined for joining. It's my pleasure and honor to have you. I love that we have this online community to talk a bit more about these energies and these influences. In Star Club, you get the opportunity, not just for live events like this one, but a whole lot more. I just want to show you some of them. One of the things that I notice people who love our community here on YouTube, but then come to me in private readings, were consistently struggling with was the sense of feeling like my life is falling apart and I have no one to talk to about it but you, Kay. You're the only one who gets it. You're the only one who sees me in the light. You're the only one who's reminding me that there is still more life to live and helping me see how to navigate it and when it's all changing. In Star Club, we're going to have regular live events to go even deeper on these energies, including one today. So I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes because at 2:30 Eastern, we are going to take this Saturn, Neptune, and Aries energy deeper for all 12 signs. Now, I invite you to join me if you want to understand how to take this energy and then actually do something with it instead of being overwhelmed, depressed, shocked into numbness, frustrated, confused, or lost. We have four different types of live events in Star Club. So we have live astro content, and this is one of them. Saturn and Neptune and Aries, all 12 signs. We're going to do Aquarius and Leo eclipse cycle for all 12 signs. Later this year, when Uranus and Jupiter step into their new signs, Gemini and Leo respectively, I'm going to do an all 12 sign breakdown. Every single live has Q&A attached. And that's because I want to be able to talk to you to help you integrate this energy. I want you to have greater access to me to ask questions. And we have a second type of live event called lunar circles. Lunar circles are where before every new and full moon, we get together live, and I'm going to break down additional transits that will impact the way the new and the full moon play out. Some of you remember pre-2025 when I would deep dive every new and full moon. If Mercury was going retrograde, I talked to you about that. If it was a good time for love, I would share that with you. If it was the right time to uh, end a relationship or to make a surprise proposal, I would share that with you because the moon isn't the only thing that governs those things. It's all the other aspects in the sky. I'm going to be bringing those other aspects back during the lunar circles. In addition to that, during lunar circle time, if it's the right thing to give you a journal prompt to really activate and use this energy in your life, I will. If it's a better tool to give you ritual work, I will give you that. And we'll have time for Q&A and discussion so that if you have questions about the energy, you won't be feeling lost. You'll be able to know how to use it. What these lunar circles do and our Astro Live events. So many of you watch these energies and then you comment, and I read the comments and you tell me, man, Kay, I wish I would have known how to work with this sooner. Or man, Kay, this played out. I want you to be able to move from watching energy to actually utilizing the energy. So many of you already know powerful people on the planet already are using the astrology. You can tell if you don't know it for a fact. You can tell by the when things are unfolding, they're utilizing astrology. I want you to have that same power to utilize the astrology for you. And you get that when you become a Stellium member in Star Club. The other two types of events that we have in Star Club are live readings. And so if you join as a full moon member, we will be doing live readings every other Thursday in Star Club. And for those of you who are Stellium members, you'll be able to watch these live readings. I'll read somebody's chart, break it down. It's a fishbowl style reading. And then from there, in between readings, if you have questions, I'm going to answer those questions for you. Why did you read that Venus retrograde and their natal chart like that? Doesn't it mean this, Kay? And I'll be able to help you understand why I interpreted things the way I did, so you can learn astrology as you go. In addition to live reading days, we also have a fourth type of live event, and these are called member voted lives. During member voted live times, if I can make a chart for it, I can read it. Whatever you want to know. If you're living in Croatia and you want to know, okay, there's this and that situation going on over here, okay, what's the outcome? Where is this headed? What should I know about the country of Croatia's economy or their policies? I'll pull up a chart for the country, the date it was founded, and read it for you and tell you what I see. Member voted lives are going to be your way to ask questions about deeper collective transformations and then get insight into what really matters for you. These are going to be across different times so that people from different time zones across the world can participate. They're never at the same time because I want to be able to give this to you. You guys will vote before I go live, and then once I go live, I'll have the agenda and the charts pulled for what we're going to work on, and I'll be able to speak to it. And there are multiple opportunities for that going forward. So these are the four types of lives that we have in Star Club, and all of that for just $22 a month. So in other words, you're basically going to have access to me to chit chat, to kiki, to go deep, to ask clarifying questions, to guide your life. Roughly once a week, we're going to be live together in some format almost once a week for roughly 20 bucks a month. And then that way you get not just me, but you also get the community. So if this is of interest to you, I encourage you to join now. With Stellium membership, you get all of that plus the live forum. And if you've ever been in community with me, you already know I run a tight ship when it comes to keeping it positive. No bullying, no bashing, no dumping. So it is one of the online spaces that you don't have to worry about gambling with your mental health in when it comes to opening it up. We don't allow trigger warning content in the space intentionally because I want this to be a space where you're really focused on growth. If you know you need support, I have a resource list of places you can go to get therapy. If the astrology is triggering something for you, you can get that list. But inside of the member area, we're specifically focused on the upward spiral in our lives. So if you want to join, the chance to do that is now. It is $22 a month. You can quit anytime. I do ask that you provide just a 3-month commitment up first. Just give me 90 days. You're going to pay 66 up front, and what that's going to do, it's going to allow the container to settle so it's not crazy in there, people jumping in, jumping out. You give it 90 days, build some community, talk to the people, talk to me, have conversation with us. And then after that, if you don't love it, quit. The minute you join, you get access to 25% off of relationship readings and personal readings when the calendar is open. So you'll be able to book. And those are member only savings that will not be available to the public. Okay. And that, if you've been wanting to read with me going forward, Star Club is the way that readings will be facilitated. Okay. So members of Star Club get access to readings. All right. So if you don't know anything about astrology, that's fine. You can be an absolute beginner. If you know everything about astrology, that's also fine. It doesn't matter. All you need to do is be ready to work with the astrology because I'm going to give you tools to do that. If you have felt lonely, join Star Club. If online spaces have not felt safe anymore, join Star Club. If you're ready to go beyond a reading because you're seeing rapid change really show up in your life. It's not, I mean, we got 10 more months of this. January was just the beginning. January and this first half of February, just the beginning. We have 10 more months of what we just saw in January continuing to show itself. And if you know you need a place that's a safe place to unpack it, talk about it, know how to use it in your personal life, understand it from a global perspective where we're headed, join Star Club. Okay. Um, and if you're ready for depth, now is the time. There are other types of membership for Star Club, new moon and full moon. Full moon is just where if you want me to read for you, you do get 3 30-minute public facing readings held in community. There'll be personal readings or synastry. So if you want to look at your counterpart this month, your child next month, your boss the final month, you can do that. New moon also includes those readings. However, they are done privately. In the past, I've only offered community public-facing readings in Star Club, and they're actually like the most fun because you get to learn so much and you also get a lot more support that way. You get the brilliance of our community's hive mind in full moon with the fishbowl readings instead of just me one-on-one. But if you want just me one-on-one, you can do that with a new moon membership. As of right now, it says 6 spots, but somebody just bought one. So there's only 5 spots left for new moon. There's only 11 spots left for full moon. I do anticipate these will sell out. Anyone who's in stellium will be on the waiting list to get a full moon or new moon spot. And so I imagine that those spots will be consistently filled once they are filled now. And if you know you want one, but you're just not sure which, join Stellium. Watch how this works first. You'll get a ton of one-on-one time with me. You may not even need new or full moon with all the one-on-one time we get to have in the group setting. Join the Stellium membership and we'll have the opportunity to go a lot deeper on so many things. I love it. This is my baby. This is where I'm going to be spending time supporting the Lightworker Collective. And if you know that you're ready to go deeper and not just observe the transits, but you also want the opportunity to work with them, Star Club is the best way to do that. In roughly about 5 minutes, I'm going to jump into the community and we're going to go through all 12 signs for this collective for the Saturn and Neptune transit. But before I let you go, I want to talk to you about individually some of what you may be experiencing. So I want to go a little deeper here. So we talked about the news stories, how the Saturn Neptune in Aries can play out for the collective. I want to talk individually here for your personal life. Here's what you can expect. There is a pull to become the next version of yourself here. This is not going to feel optional. Some of you are already experiencing this pressure. It's going to show up as a quiet and persistent awareness that you can no longer do what you have previously been doing for in one area of life. For all of us in personal relationships and romance, the Aries Libra axis, but for many this is going to show up in more than just that way. There is a demand in the energy to become the next version of yourself in the way you're interacting and relating. What's pulling us forward may not be visible yet. It's going to be a bit more instinctual than logical. Thank you, Neptune. However, the longer we ignore it, the louder the friction is going to become. And some of you are already experiencing a lot of friction, a lot of static in your life. This is going to be the beginning of self-initiation, as opposed to reinvention for the sake of change and not just I want to change my hair and get a few tattoos. This is really going to be about deeper alignment with who we are and who we're becoming through action more than anything. We'll also see a push to close out ties with inauthenticity. This is a big one. So where in your life have you been playing the role, the good daughter, the good mother, the good friend, the good husband? Where have you been checking off the box of doing the appropriate thing as opposed to the thing that's aligned for you? During this time of Saturn and Neptune through Aries, the next 2.5 years, with Saturn in particular, situations, relationships, roles where we have been performing, overextending, or diluting ourselves, they start to feel unbearable. This won't mean dramatic endings or cataclysmic collapse and change. It'll just be clear and we'll just be opting out of inauthenticity. Some of you may have already experienced that. If you guys know that bicep emoji and you've experienced that, put that bicep emoji in the chat. I definitely have. We'll also with this begin to see where we've been keeping something alive past its truth. And once we see it, we're not going to be able to unsee it. I have seen a lot of relationships disintegrate over the past year for that reason. The push here is really not about rejection for the sake of it. It's really about restoring our personal wholeness and integrity. So we're closing loops, but this is going to require separations. Thank you, Saturn. Saying no, establishing boundaries, stepping back, letting something end without necessarily needing to replace it immediately. This is where boundaries stop being ideas and start becoming lived, okay? We'll also see the call to deepen our spirituality here, okay? This is where surface level understanding is going to stop working. And we've started to really see this collectively, especially during the Neptune and Pisces years, that like 14-year period with Neptune and Pisces. This was a period of time where we had an abundance and an explosion of people coming into spiritual awareness online and talking about it. Spiritual concepts, law of attraction, law of assumption, law of one, unity consciousness. What is light workership, way showership? What are the chakras? How does intuition work? Past lives are real. How do we tap into them? How do we clear them? These sorts of introductory concepts are now going to take a step deeper so that we go beyond just knowing about these things, but instead we start working with these things in concrete ways in our personal lives. This is where spirituality departs from escapism and starts to become personal and precise. We're going to start learning how to discern what's our truth and what we can leave for other people because that's their truth, their reality. We don't have to step into that. We're also going to be learning how to strengthen our inner signal so that it's not distorted by emotions or projection or external noise. It's going to be really constructive. This is where spirituality becomes less about seeking and more about action, where we're taking consistent, intentional actions, thank you, Aries, to integrate how our spirituality shows itself in the third dimension. How do we not just feel it, but then live by it? Lastly, or second to lastly, we're going to see a need to apply more discipline, more structure. So some of us are already sensing that there are certain parts about our life and environments that could require better boundaries. For some of you, this is going to be financially. For others of you, this is going to be with your family or home. And still for others of you, this is going to be with your kids or your parents as they age. This is where you're going to be asked to really figure out, where is my wholeness in this, and how do I connect without compromise? Where is my grounding in this, and how do I share without dissolving? Okay. So this is about really choosing where our energy goes and where it doesn't, and being intentional about that going forward. Now, I want to be honest, this can really feel like restriction at first. For some of you, health-wise, yeah, your body has been telling you and is giving you wake-up calls even as I speak. Um, the ways you've been operating health-wise, yeah, that's not going to work anymore. We need new structure, we need new boundaries. That's going to be challenging if we're used to moving more intuitively. But the structure isn't about limiting us. It's about holding what's trying to come through. There is a piece of us that's trying to birth. Hooray! I see Diana and Wit just joined Star Club. I'm so excited to have you guys. Thank you for joining. Big shout out to you. Can't wait to talk to you in a moment. A few others have joined as well. This is really about taking personal ownership around areas of life where we have previously been allowed to coast. Now we need to make them concrete. Okay. And then lastly, we see that there can be a dissatisfaction and a restlessness with a lack of growth in our lives. This is the friction that's going to keep us moving forward. There can be a sense here that we've plateaued or that something has stopped evolving or stopped growing. Even if things have been comfortable, they may not feel alive, and this is going to become a problem during this period of time. The restlessness isn't going to be something that you need to suppress or fix. Instead, it's trying to show us, hey, Taria, welcome to Star Club. Great to have you. Um, this isn't something that we need to fix. This is really about setting standards and really refining our current levels of engagement, especially if we've been engaging in a way that's killing the life in it for us. And we have the option to flip that and engage in a way that brings us back to life. Again, for some of you, this is about school, and it's like, okay, you got to change your concentration area of study if you're going to finish this degree. Where you've been at is sucking the life out of you. There is something more aligned, and the restlessness and dissatisfaction is helping you by making it too uncomfortable to stay where you are. You have to grow. We have to evolve. For others of you, this is about work and the type of work you're doing. And still for others of you, this is going to be about your friendship circle and just recognizing every time we get together, it's the same faces, the same spaces, the same conversations. I am bored. Yeah, because it's time to step into your next chapter and season. Okay. These experiences are not just happening in the collective, they're happening for us, as I said. And in Star Club, in each live, I'm not only going to break down what's coming with these big transits for each sign, but I'm also going to share here's how you work with this. Here are the action steps that you can take. Here's how you make this easier for you. Here's a guide, and here's how to direct this energy in your own life. Hey, Dark Aria, welcome to Star Club. Great to have you. I can't wait to chat with you momentarily when we do all 12 signs. I want you guys to know that there is a safe place out here where you can fall apart and rebuild who you are becoming, and that place is Star Club. Okay. I know this is a disruptive time. It is a restless time. It is an overwhelming time when it comes to what's happening in the collective. But you don't have to go through this alone. Isolation is not the answer. Carefully curated spaces is. Okay. Um, so if you're going to join me, the link to do that is in the description box. Kylie put it in the chat. I really would love to have you because when it comes to considering Star Club, I want you to think about how many times you've been in the thick of something only to realize you were manifesting the worst possible expression of that transit. Everyone else said that transit was supposed to have a breakthrough. You instead got a breakdown. Everyone said that this transit was supposed to bring something lucky. Instead, you got a loss. If you've ever gone to an astrologer and they explained which planet was creating problems only after you've been in the trenches trying to figure it out, you're not alone. That was me. Back when I was 35, so some of you don't know, I left home when I was 16. And it wasn't, I got kicked out or anything. It was mutually agreed upon, but there was some real drama behind it. I ended up needing to move back home when I was 35 because I didn't know this, but there was a transit going on in the sky that wanted me to focus on my North Node and all of the changes that I needed to be making in my personal life around certain things, again, having to do with Saturn. I didn't know, la 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 la, skip to my loo, my darling. I was out here living my best life only for everything to fall apart. So many things felt like they were, quote, getting taken away from me at one time. My boyfriend broke up with me at that point. I had two health diagnoses that completely undermined my hormonal system. And I was in hormonal crisis and chaos at that point, some of it due to stress. I found I owed the IRS like a gang of money, like tens of thousands of dollars. And I made a pivot in my business at that point. And in that pivot, what ended up happening is I lost, because I moved too quickly, I lost all of the business that I had. And in losing that business, what ended up happening is no money came in, and I had to move back home for the first time in over like 20 years, 19 years. It was crazy. to be 35, 36, living in my parents' house. Some of you already know, yeah. If I can avoid that, tell me how. Had I known what to focus on before that transit hit, there are so many other ways that period of time could have gone. But instead, I had to dig myself out of the astrological hole I was in, trying to figure it out on my own. You don't have to do that. Star Club is the place for you to come to for direction. It is a safe place to figure out what's happening next. It's going to make you the universe's favorite instead of living another year running the God's strongest soldier test with your life. This can be easy. I want it to be easy for you. There is fire here in these transits, but there's also a lot of grace and blessings, but it's a matter of knowing how to use them. So if you're ready to sign up, hey, welcome, Cocky Yuga time. I'm so happy you've joined Star Club. I can't wait to chat to you in a few moments. If you're ready to sign up, we're ready to have you. I'm going to take this deeper with Star Club members only now and close out this live, and I'll answer your questions about this energy during that Star Club only Q&A. And yeah, if you have questions about Star Club, feel free to drop them in the comments. I will be coming back after I'm done being live to answer Star Club questions only. And if you've got questions about the transits, join Star Club, and I'll see you over there. Thanks so much for being here, everyone, and bye for now.